Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the Mental Health Webinar Series 2020 and 2021. Today we are in 497 session. Today we are going to see the topic managing hurt by the resource person Sri Kuti. We had already couple of sessions from her. She's a counseling psychologist. She was working with the Sona Engineering College as a counseling psychologist trainer, and she was associated with the GLM Hospital Salem as a counseling psychologist. Right now, she's practicing individually in her hometown. I would like to welcome today's resource person and all the participants on behalf of American College Madurai, MS Chellamuthi Institute Madurai, Madras School of Social Work Chennai, Red Pond Educational Psychological Research Center, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, and Tamil Nadu Career Counseling Association, Tamil Nadu Counseling Psychotherapy Association. This kind note, I would like to welcome to the resource person and all the participants for this session. Ma'am, over to you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Salim sir. A very good evening and warm welcome to the webinar. Before I dive into my topic, I would like to congratulate Yellow Pond and everyone whose hands are there in this webinar series. And I would like to thank Suresh sir too, because he only introduced me to this webinar series, and I came very late. As Mutaya sir said, I also came very late, and I feel so good in conducting a couple of webinars, and best wishes for the future ventures too. So today's topic is managing hurt. Like every one of us have gone through hurtful feelings in our life at some or the other points. Like I haven't seen anyone who haven't experienced the hurtful feeling. If anyone knows anyone, please introduce me also to them, because I really want to know how the person is. At some or the other point in our life, hurt is an emotion that we always pass through. Today's session, actually, it is like we have only kind of 40 members, so I hope that it will be a very interactive session, because I planned only a 30 minutes of talk from my side, and rest I want to get the experience of other people, because hurt is something very personal to everyone, and everyone will have a personal story too. I planned this session as a very raw session, because it is truly or purely based on my experience as a psychologist, as well as an individual. So there won't be much theories happening in this session, but I'll make sure that there will be some takeaways for everyone who are with me and who are going to travel with me for the next 30 minutes. I assure you, you will have a few takeaways. Moving on, what is hurt? Hurt is an unpleasant feeling or sad feeling that is caused by someone else's words or actions. So there should be someone else before us to make us feel hurt. As we know that almost all the negative emotions, during the negative emotions, a lot of chemicals are flooded into our body. With hurt also, the same thing happens. A lot of chemicals are flooded into our body, like norepinephrine, cortisols, and a lot of chemicals are flooded, and in a long run, it is not good for our body. So in a long run, it causes us a lot of physical problems such as sleeplessness. It can cause us anxiety. It can lead to depression. It can lead to stress. It can lead to cognitive problems like memory problems, then thinking problems, processing problems, and it affects our overall life. It affects the happiness of a person. It affects the well-being of an individual. So hurt is an emotion that is important for us, but it is not a good emotion that will help you in a long run. In the session, whenever in my clinical experience, whenever I get a client with hurtful emotions or feelings, I take up in two levels. Whenever I get a client, I deal it in two levels. One is the body and breath level, another is the thought level. So usually it happens is like I'll begin with the body and breath, because when we are experiencing hurt, as I told before, there are a lot of physical changes also happen in our body. And our prefrontal cortex completely gets shut, and our emotional brain take up the role. And the emotional brain always thinks in a lot of emotional ways, and it won't be productive. and we will end up hurting only. So when we go to the thought level initially, I don't think that we can make some productive decisions because our prefrontal cortex is almost shut down during that event. So it is better that we deal with our body and breath in the first step so that we can relax our body, we can calm down our body so that our body signals our brain that the body is relaxed state, it's in a calm state, and our emotional, like our logical brain take over our emotional brain and we can work forward. So in my opinion, we need to deal with the body and breath level. Why breath is an important tool that really helps you to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system that again relaxes your body. Breath reduces your blood pressure. It helps the oxygen to reach everywhere in your brain. So again, it gives us a very calming and relaxing state where your body tells your brain that you can work on it right now. You are relaxed. You are safe. So we can attain this breath and body by three things. One is gestures. Some gestures to your body that makes you feel so safe, that makes you feel so relaxed and calm. There are a lot of gestures, and it can be a hugging gesture to yourself that increases the oxytocin level in your body, similar to when someone else hugs us. You can get the similar effect. Then many gestures are there, and we will discuss one gesture moving forward. Then the next thing is breath. It can be any breathing exercise. Like it can be deep breathing exercise. It can be pursed breathing exercise. Anything that is comfortable to you. And the third important thing is affirmations. Telling your body that it is really in a safer place. It is really in a calm and a safe environment is very important for our brain to understand that you are relaxed. Because when there is some changes in our brain, some problems with your thought process, our body also respond to that. Similar way, when our body gets into a calm state, it is also communicated to the brain. So the gesture that I always suggest my client is like keeping your one arm under your armpit and then the other hand over your shoulder. So this is a gesture that makes you feel so grounded and that makes you feel so relaxed. So whenever I get a client with hurt issues, hurtful emotions, I tell them like, okay, we will begin with the body healing, where you just place your hands over your, like under your armpit and another hand on your shoulders. Then focusing on the breath, like you can take deep breath. Four counts of deep breath is needed for you to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system as well as stimulate your vagus nerve. So there are 4 episodes of deep breath. Then moving into an affirmation stage where you tell your body that you are safe right now. You are relaxed. When you take the breath itself, your body gets into a relaxed state. Your breathing, like you will be in a shallow breathing when you are in hurtful moment, but your breathing will come to normal and you will be in a relaxed state. Again, we are telling our body through affirmations like we are safe, you are calm, you are relaxed. Look into any sensations in your body. Like sometimes I feel a chest condition, like a kind of tightness in my chest when I think about any hurtful emotions or when I get hurt. So look for any sensations in your body. And when you find any sensations, just relax there. Just say to your body to calm down. Just say to your body to relax. Just be in that moment. Be in that moment for a few minutes and come out of it. You will definitely feel relaxed and your body will be thanking you. I'll tell an experience. I had a client, so she was having a lot of hurt emotions because she was having some problems in her family life. So she came to me and I told her like you need to heal your body and mind. Then we will go to the thought process. So we were doing this exercise. Then after a few months when I saw her, she told me like, Shri, I really thank you and I thank all the people that gives me hurt because I am able to understand how beautiful my body is. What are the sensations that my body give me and how my body communicate to me. So she told me this was the first time I was feeling my body, what's happening in my body. I never I have never come across a situation where I'll be sitting with my body and feeling what it is. So if in the next time you're feeling hurt or you're having some sadness or anything, just sit with your body, just relax your body, and then you come out. What happens is like your emotional, your logical brain takes over the things and it will start thinking properly. It will start thinking in a way that you could manage. And your body will be in a relaxed state where you can feel so much relaxation. Your shoulders will be so soft and relaxed. If I had time, I would have done that exercise for you, but due to shortage of time, I'm not moving forward. So let me know whether any one of you have done like body and breath work before dealing with heart or any emotions. Is there any experience like you wish to share? You can chat also, like if you have any, if you have come across anything like this. I think you people will be trying it in future. So yeah. So that is with the body and so that is with the body and breath level. So once the body and breath level is done, like once you are Mutaya said, I know abdomen breathing. Yeah, abdomen breathing is very good to relax your body and to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So there is another breathing called burst breathing. That is also very good because we need to increase the exhalation time. Because when we exhale, it is like relaxing your body and like stimulating the vagus nerve directly. So when the exhalations are more, it does wonders. So moving on, when you're done with your body and breath, you feel relaxed. And let's get into the thought level. So this session, I would go with my experience with my clients. So it will be like a lot of client cases will be coming. So I had a client, it happened like a year before, I guess. Someone has a question. Okay, we will be dealing the question later. So I had a client whose husband was kind of a very busy man. So she always come and tell me that I'll be the happiest person if my husband get transferred to another city or another state. So she used to always, whenever we talk, she used to tell me like, Shri, I'll be the happiest. I pray to God that he should get transferred to some other district or some other state. So when we were talking, she used to tell me that every day he comes and he talks to me like, okay, you are this, you are that. He always abuses me. He always comment very bad words that hurts me a lot. Then we were talking for a long time, and then I asked her like, let's understand what is the situation, what is the event. The problem with this is we don't understand what the real event is. Okay, your husband's okay. Let us think about your husband. Like, he is going out, he's having work. So let us explore like what are the problems that he would face in the workplace. So he is into a very big position in administrative wing of the government only. So he was a very busy person and he has to deal with a lot of issues. So when we were dealing, I asked her, like, let's think whether he is doing it intentionally or unintentionally. Whether he has any intentions or no intentions. So if he is coming after a long fight in the office or something like that, it is without any intention, he just shows the emotions because he doesn't know how to manage his emotions. It's something that it comes out without any intentions. So what is the point in worrying about that thing without any intentions he is doing that? If he is doing with intentions, then also look back. Definitely the person will have certain insecurities that is causing him to hurt someone with intentions. Definitely there will be a low self-esteem issue that is found in the case. And the next thing will be misunderstanding, like misunderstanding in the communication and all these things. Then I asked my friend, like, is it your problem? These all things are happening. Is it your problem? It's not at all your problem. One is your husband doesn't know how to manage the emotions. He may have a lot of issues like surrounded by him. Second is like the insecurities that he would have. And the third is like misunderstanding in the communication. Know where you are involved in it and what is a logical thing in getting hurt for something like that. So I don't know how it worked for her because we didn't had a meeting after that, and that day she was all fine and good. So moving on to the next is like responding rather than react, because when a situation happens, when there a conversation happens, we always react. We always look into the words of that person and we always react to the words of the other person. Rather than reacting to the words, why we not try to understand the emotions of that person? Why we not try to reflect our emotions to that person too? What I used to do is like, I always feel that we become so angry and we explode because we want the other person to know what we are feeling. If I'm telling someone that I understand what you're feeling, then the other person knows that, okay, she gets what I'm feeling right now. She's understanding what I'm feeling right now. So that is the place where we validate the emotions of the other person, not the words of the other person. When I tell my son, like, I understand what you're feeling right now, then there is no need to show a lot of things to make me understand. Next thing is like telling what you are feeling. It's not your words, or it's not the opposite of the words that your husband said or anyone said. Telling like what you are feeling. Like, I am feeling very low when you're talking like this to me. Let's take a break. I think that would work better rather than trying to solve the issue right now. That is responding. In responding, we listen to that person, we reflect to that person, we validate the emotions of the other person, and we express our emotions and we negotiate what to do. At that point, what is the thing that we have to do? We negotiate. So, what happens when we react? We react in a way, the situation gets worse. After that, we start thinking, oh my God. We start feeling guilty. We start feeling shame. We start criticizing us. Actually, I had a client, so she used to come and tell me that, Sri, I know all these things. So when my friends also have this problem, I tell them that don't take it personal, and leave it, don't take it personal. But when it comes to me, I ask myself, why this happened to me? Why he is talking to me like this? It is personalized to talk. He is intending to hurt me. So we all know all these things, but when it comes to a personal thing, we don't do anything. We judge us, we criticize us, we like start finding the faulty things in our life. We start negative thinking and we make the situation very worse, and we will have this hurt for a longer period of time. So second, my thing is like, stop reacting, learn to respond. Okay, learn to respond. Hmm? And this learning to respond, it is like, it is a skill how to respond to another person. It is a skill of emotional intelligence, I guess, because responding is an art and we need to learn it. So it is like a slow process. If you are a psychologist, you know that, like, we know everything, but most of the time we know everything, but most of the time we don't apply anything in our life unless we have a will that we want to change. Because I was a psychologist for the last couple of years, but last 2 years only changed me. Last 2 years only taught me how to respond to a situation rather than reacting to a situation. So reflecting and responding is an important skill that if psychologists have it, it does wonders in their profession when we try to respond to a situation. Moving on, the third thing would be creating a personal boundaries. Okay. Most of the situations, we know what are the things that harm us, or what are the things that hurt us. Usually we know what are the things that hurt us. So if I have someone in my house who always abuses me, or who always tells me like, do this, do that, do this, do that, I know what is hurting me. If I am able to build a boundary in a way that I am not going directly to them to get hurt, or like some situations I know, if that situations are causing me hurt, I can build a boundary so that I am not going and getting hurt. there are many situations where I have seen people going and getting hurt. So then I ask them, like, can you prepare a list of the things that hurts you and try what are the things you can avoid that doesn't affect you. But in some cases, it doesn't affect much because there are some situations that are very unavoidable, and we need to be present at that situations. So what can we do at that situation? I had a client, she had an abusive mother, not an abusive mother. She had a mother who always complains her. Her mother always blames her. Her mother always puts lot of criticism on her. So she came for counseling. She had lot of traumatic incidents, lot of things. So she is just a 20-year-old girl. So she came to me. I asked her, like, we were talking about all the things that she faces in a day-to-day life, like all the difficulties, all these things. I asked her, like, what kind of mother you would be? Like, when you become a mother, what kind of mother you would be? So she told me, like, I'll be a very empathetic mother. I'll be a very loving mother. I will never judge my daughter. I will never criticize her. I stand with my daughter for everything. Then I asked her, will you be like your mother? Then she told, never, Shri. I will never be like my mother. Then I asked her why. She told me, like, my mother doesn't understand me. She told me my mother doesn't understand my emotions. Then I told her, like, she has low empathy. Her empathy is very low to be a mother. Then she told me, like, my mother reacts in a very aggressive way at times. Then I told her that her emotional intelligence is again too. Then she told me, like, my mother doesn't support me. Then I told her, like, she doesn't know how to be a mother at times. Maybe. Then we were pointing out different things, and I was relating all these things to somewhere in psychology. And I told her that your mother is weak. You don't know what happened to your mother's childhood. You don't know what happened to her life as such. But right now, the mother that you're seeing is very weak. She has low empathy, low emotional intelligence, low understanding. She has many things, low self-esteem, lot of insecurities. So your mother is very weak, and what you're doing right now is you're giving your emotions to your mother. Your mother is deciding your emotions. See, you are getting emotional for the vulnerabilities of your mother. There is a weak person opposite to you, and you are just giving up your emotions. And she is a girl who talks about independence. I want to be independent and all. Then I told her, you are dependent on your mother's emotions. You are a slave to your mother's emotions. Your emotions are complete slave. Try on becoming independent here with your emotions, not with your mother. This is what I tell most of my clients who come with breakups, heartbreaks, and all. When we understand the other person, they have, like, we all can't be perfect, right? Some people are very weak, they have a very low self esteem, they have a very low understanding about the things, low emotional intelligence, and all these things. They are very weak, and these weak personalities make us feel hurt and we suffer for a long period of time. It is just slavery of our emotions to them. Our emotions are with them. The time I decided to bring a change in my life, the first thing that I decided is the key to all my emotions should be safe in my hands. I should never give my emotions key to anyone else's hand. It is my decision to feel happy, to feel sad, to feel angry, to anything. It is my decision. No one else should define that. And my happiness, I should never give, especially with happiness, because when I started exploring happiness, what I felt was like my happiness is within me. It's my thoughts that makes me happy. Even I get a very good phone, I'm in a bad mood, I can't be happy. So what we do is, like, we give our emotions to others' hand and we suffer and we tell that we are hurt. The fact is that we are not independent. We talk about independence a lot, but our emotions are dependent on others. So when you want to work on your hurt feelings, work on your dependency with these emotions. Work on your slavery to other people related to your emotions. Just think over it and maybe if you're not a psychologist, if you reach a psychologist, they could really help you. There are a lot of wonderful techniques to understand your thought process and to manage it. Moving on, I'll tell about the last step that I always feel is like forgive and move on. About this forgive and move on, when it comes to an hurtful emotion, I had a client, like we were like in the counseling process like 3 years before. But during that time, I got shifted to my hometown, and then I asked her to see another psychologist because that time online counseling wasn't that popular. So she went to see another psychologist. The story was she had some childhood traumas, all these things. So she went to see another psychologist. It was going like that and all. But like a few weeks before, she contacted me again. So she told me that with other psychologists, it wasn't working, Shri and all. It is because there is something called synergy. I believe in synergy. With some clients, that synergy happens, and we would be able to work very smooth with some clients. But with some clients, it doesn't happen. So our synergies really match. So whenever the last time we had a session, she told me like, Sri, there are many things that are hurting me. Even I try to forget many things, it's not moving from my mind. It is really hurting me. I can't sleep. I feel so traumatized. So she was telling me a lot of things like that. Then I asked her, what do you do? She told me, I try to forget, Sri, but it's not happening. Then I told her, imagine that you have a plastic ball or something in your hand and you are in a beach, you are in the sea, water, and you're trying to push that ball inside. It is with lot of efforts you need to push it, but it pops up. That's what you do when you try to forget things. Let's think about replacing this get from get. This get is always dangerous only, I see. Get result in like expectations. When we think about getting, we have expectations. Let's replace this get with gi. Forget with forgive. It just does wonders when we start forgiving others. When I was in a joint family, and in joint family, you can imagine we will have difference of opinions and lot of things. When I started practicing forgiveness, I tell to myself that it is really sad that they are not able to think properly. Let me forgive them for that. Initially it was, I also feel that, oh my god, what I'm telling to myself, like it is like it is very sad that they don't know the fact. It is very sad that they are not reading up or they are not coming up to the society. They don't know what's happening in the world. It is very sad, and let's forgive them. That was the real statement that I used to say. Initially I didn't feel anything much, but after like a year of practice, what I feel right now is I really feel liberated. That is the proper word. I feel liberated when I start forgiving. When I, excuse me, and there's a book. Give me a second. Thank you for waiting. So when I started forgiving, it was just a liberation or freedom from my all hurtful emotions. It really allowed me to get independence from all the hurt that I had. Like everyone will have some traumatized events in their life, somewhere some neglect happened in our life. That all hurts us in our long run. But when we start forgiving these things, it just go away from our mind somewhere. When we start loving that emotions, when we start really feeling good to the people who hurt us, when we just think that it is their ignorance, it is their weakness, it is their unavailability. It really helps you to come out of all these things. Sorry.
Ma'am, you can unmute and you can talk here.
Yeah, no. Like, was I on mute for all this time? May I know?
No.
So, this is what when I tell my clients also, like forgiveness is a very big topic and it has various steps when we are reaching forgiveness. I think there was a previous session by, I don't know the resource person on forgiveness. Like it has different steps and different levels, and it is not an easy thing because when I started practicing and when I tell my clients also, like they tell me that Shri, it is not that easy as we say, forgive. It's not at all uneasy. It is like we need to slowly become more empathetic, become more compassionate, become more kind and connectedness that we need to build to the inner self of us as well as to others. There comes forgiveness. To add on with this point, so these are the some of the techniques that I suggest to my clients when dealing with hurt. Initially begin with body and breath, then moving into the thought process. When it comes to the thought process, like I have talked about this many times, so that is why I didn't include in that like cognitive restructuring, like restructuring your thought process, understanding the maladaptive thoughts, because we always have a lot of maladaptive thoughts. Like the person is talking about me only. The person is pointing to me. I am not that great. Because of that, only the person talks like that to me. I have some problem. Because of that, the person talked to me. So we have lot of maladaptive thoughts. And when working with a psychologist or when working with yourself, you can just note down what are the thoughts and just logically ask yourself, is that a logical thought? What are the possibilities supporting that? What are the things that validate their thoughts? And you can reconstruct it. It's not an easy process, but if you are into it, you can. And we are humans, we make a lot of mistakes in our life. And I believe that mistakes are the best teachers if we are willing to learn. If there is a willingness to learn in ourselves, mistakes are the best teachers. No one can be teachers like our mistakes. And whenever we have an hurtful emotions, actually these hurtful emotions are making us more stronger. When I started processing my hurtful emotions, when I started forgiving the people who have hurt me, when I started processing the cognitive part of my emotions, hurtful emotions, I felt very strong. I felt, as I told, liberation was the only word that I feel when I think about my emotions right now. I don't get any other word. And I think that serves the purpose. The word serves the purpose, how much liberated I am. Then moving on, like you can practice some exercises because exercise really help to ventilate your negative emotions. It's not related to hurt, but it helps to ventilate the negative emotions that you have. Another thing is journaling. Like in journaling, you will know what are the emotions that hurt you. Rather than thinking in your mind and thinking in the air, you will be able to understand what are the emotions hurting you, as well as you can make a gratitude journal. So sometimes in counseling, we all know that I believe that in a counseling session, there should be a motivational session in that. There should be a small motivation session. There should be a small learning session where we need to teach our clients something new about a therapy, something new about a cognition. Like sometimes I tell my client that there are 64,000 thoughts that you will get in a day, and these many are negative. So this is a teaching that we teach our client. What is anxiety? So there should be a teaching, there should be a motivational class, there should be a validation point, there should be an understanding point, there should be an experience sharing where we counselors should share our experience to our clients. So these all consist of a counseling session. And when it comes to motivation, I always tell my clients that we don't think about the things that we have. We are not at all having gratitude to anything. Like when we are so hungry and when we get a food, maybe at that point we thank, oh thank God I got this food. I have told, oh thank God I got water. But when I get the another 10 glasses of water, I never thank God. That is what we does in our life. We are never gratitude to most of the things in our life. In my motivation session, I tell my clients that for motivation sessions, I tell my clients that look at you. If you're able to see, if you're able to walk, if you're able to think, walk is also not necessary. If you're able to think, if you're able to speak, you can conquer this world. No one can defeat you. I believe that. Because I have seen many people who can speak, walk, not only not walk, speak, talk. See, they have conquered the world in a way that you can't imagine. After counseling sessions, it's not only with me, but with a couple of counseling friends I had. I've seen a massive change in them when people start feeling gratitude towards the things that they have. So being gratitude is a very important skill to make your life more stable and happy. So with this, I am ending my topic. My only last point is, don't give the key to your emotions in anyone's hand, not even your son's or your husband's hand. Don't ever give, especially don't give it to your husband's hand and all. So don't give it to anyone's hand. Keep it safe within you. Keep it safe within you, and just enjoy your life. Yeah. So I would like to. Yeah. So Salim sir, actually my content is a good finish here. So I didn't wanted to add too many contents because I wanted to go with the time frame, as well as I wanted to have a discussion with the group, as we have many experienced people here. So I would like to know how they look at hurt, and like I want to listen how they face the hurtful situations in their life, so that it would be a lesson to others here. Yeah, anyone want to share?
Good evening, Sri Kutti. Good evening.
Yeah,
Sir, please. Yeah. Go ahead,
This
sir.
is Amrut. This is Amrut Muzumdar
Hi.
calling from Raipur.
Yes,
I
sir.
have
Yeah.
two
Please
things
go ahead.
to ask. First of all, congratulations for excellent presentation you have done, and excellent insight into how the session counseling session. Two things I need to ask. One is, you said that could be motivation, there could be learning, and a counseling session should have all these components. Now, suppose learning or motivation it takes longer than the expected. Maybe that counseling period falls shorter, or you are not able to cover the things which you already planned. In that situation, what should be done? That is one. Another is, if somebody deliberately hurt us, or hurt you for that matter, especially in case of our clients, if husband deliberately hurts a wife. So in that situation, what should be done?
So thank you, Amrut, for the question. So the first question is like regarding the counseling session. Okay, counseling session primarily depend on our clients, because it should go with the client's pace, and it differs from therapist to therapist. Basically, I am a person-centered therapist. I believe in the strength of my clients, so I go with that way. So in a person-centered therapy, I go with my clients, and I am into DBT, I am into CBT, so I involve that also. But what I feel is like whenever someone talks to us, imagine you as a client. So at the end of the session, when there is a kind of a little motivation doesn't recur, like how many minutes I took to motivate you people by saying that how you are blessed. If you have these eyes, if you have the ability to talk, if you have the ability to stand, if you have the ability to walk, conquer the world, that is a motivation. Would want a lot of sessions, I believe. So what I do is like I just towards the end of my session, I just tell my clients what you are good for, what makes you individuality, what is life for you, and where the fire in you lies. Just go and hit it. So all the clients, like I make sure that the last 5 minutes I entirely take it for positive motivation, motivating my client. If the client is so depressed, then only we just leave. Other cases, I just go with this thing. And as you told, the time is very short. Then focus on the motto. Like, what is the motto of the counseling? Maybe we will have a motto. Like, when before we start a session, we always have a plan. Okay, this is how the session should go through. So initially, it will be like how their last week went, or what are their problems, exploring their problems, what they want, all these things. Then we like if an anxiety issue comes, we need to educate the client what is anxiety. What is anxiety? The client should know what is anxiety. So education is very important. He should know how it is affecting him, and he should know what he can do. So education, I think, is necessary, and motivation, it takes only some few minutes. So to the next question, like when it is deliberately the husband is hitting a wife, if a person does deliberately, I believe that there is insecurities. there are personality problems with the person. Then the third thing would be there is some misunderstanding. So with all these things, the wife can't do anything apart from this misunderstanding point. So if the husband is deliberately hurting her, if I have a client like that, I would suggest my client to take the legal help, because I don't believe that anyone has the right to hurt someone physically. Even I tell my son, if he get angry and if he shows tantrums on me, I tell him, I don't beat you, because I believe that no one has the right to hurt someone unless it is an emergency situation where I need to show my anger, where my right is taken away. Unless that situation, no one has the right to hurt someone physically. They can go, if it is my client, I would definitely encourage my client to take some help if she is independent. There are also many factors are there. Else I will train my client to become very independent, because becoming independent in this tech world is very easy. It is not like you think. So becoming independent is very easy. I will encourage my client. I will motivate my client. So that I would do as a person. I don't know with other therapists. Amrita, I hope I have answered you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you very much. But one point I just wanted to get clarified. Suppose you share your experience as a psychologist, you share your experience to help the client, which is that experience is relevant to the client's experience or his well-being. Now, but client doesn't perceive that that experience is something to do with his or her problem. So, what to do?
I didn't get that question, Amrit. Can you please make it a little more clear?
When you share your experience in certain situations and you try to explain the client and have some learning from your experience, client is also in same situation, okay, and that is what you are sharing is related to them. Client doesn't perceive that the client has something to do with what you are sharing, or they don't feel that it is relevant there, sharing your experience as a psychologist.
Okay, I will answer this question. I believe that I don't have any right to decide my client's life. I validate their emotions. I tell them that I also have gone through the same feeling. I understand your feeling. I tell that I have met a lot of women with the same feeling. I know how sad the feeling is. I never validate the behavior to anyone. I never validate anyone's behavior that is negative or inappropriate. And I believe that no psychologist should do that. We should validate the feelings of the other person. Even when I tell my experience, I tell to my clients that I have gone through the same situations in my life where I was stuck completely. I know how it is feeling. I will never tell my clients what I did. If it is a therapy that I'm going to tell them, I'll tell them that, okay, this therapy, I even did it. If I'm telling about like relaxing my body with breath, I tell my clients that I did this breath. It has a scientific base. When something doesn't have a scientific base or psychological base, it is my personal experience. I personally don't share that kind of experience. I just validate with the feelings of my client. I tell that even in childhood days, I have experienced neglect and I know how it is feeling. It's my feelings that I express to my client, but never my solutions. I don't do that. I think your question is something related to this, Amrit. Is that
Yes, yes,
clear?
yes, ma'am, yes.
Thank
Thank
you, Amrit.
Good evening, CP ma'am.
Hi, Chitra ma'am.
I'm happy to attend your session again. A wonderful session. I learned 3 important points from your speech. One is, in some situations, some people or some incidents, we may be hurt a lot. But at the time, you said absolutely right. Shallow breathing is very good exercise to overcome from that most negative feelings. Also, responding is more effective than reacting against a person or a situation which or who hurted us. Also, we will have to manage our emotions or handle our emotions in a right way. Nobody can't hurt us. This is my I know from your session. I'm very happy.
Thank you,
Hello.
Chitra ma'am. Yeah.
Hi,
Hello,
good
madam.
evening, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes, Muralidharan sir,
thank
you can
thank
go
you.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your nice presentation. I have one doubt, ma'am. Actually, as a counsel psychologist, the people see nowadays, some people are aware of the counseling terminology, yeah, like terminology, like your thinking, logical thinking, means whatever it is in the psychological terms. Okay, suppose you think about the very common people who is having the issues, right? Psychological issues. So, in simple sentences, how you will deal that means you have told some people who is having the awareness, like psychological awareness, something like that. Okay, but very common people, but they have the issues, real issues. You find out. So, how you will deal with that? Can you please?
Yeah, okay. So when it comes to issues, actually, I am a freelancer. So I get a lot of clients who know about psychology and who know about like I'm doing practicing psychology. So I don't get much clients with that. But when I was working with hospital, I used to get clients who are from the typical village side and they come to see me because they will be directed by some other doctors. Like they will be having panic attacks and they come to this cardiac department, and when everything is fine they will send us to us, so we need to deal with them. So in that cases what I did was like I just listen to them. They won't have anyone in their home who will be just listening to them, and the hospital the pay was very less, so they were very happy because I listened to them for 1.5 hours and all. I listened to them, I listened completely to them. They start trusting me. They will trust me, they will trust me as their daughters. They will trust me like someone like so good, a person with so goodness, and they all tell me like, oh, we can't believe that you're sitting and listening, because they don't know that is our job. Even though that is our job, we are doing with a hurt. So
Okay.
I just listen to them, I just validate them, I just tell them like, I can understand this is the things that is happening, and this is because of this you are having all these things. When we get a trust, they start believing us. It is the problem with this, not really problem. When it comes to village people and normal people, they believe us very easily. It is easy to convince them. Like, this is the thing that is happening. And I would tell you that for them and all, it would be like I'll be telling some body exercises to do, something like that. And then they will have some sorrows within themselves, like some traumatized situations. So we will be talking about the traumatized situations, and I'll make them feel so safe, where they feel that my cabin and I am the safest person they would have ever met. That is the only thing a
Okay.
psychologist can do there. I don't think
Okay.
so. Like working on the thought process, like
Mhm.
maybe if they come at the second time or third time, we will talk about the thought process. But initial times, it is
Yeah.
just being with them, listening to them, validating them, making them feel so good that they will just relax being with us. They will love talking to us. They will feel so much of goodness in the communication. I think that is something that I'll tell you that I have only 4 years of counseling experience, and I haven't been with a lot of clients and all, but all my clients, I had a very good relationship. Like I still have keep in touch. So I believe that these strategies help them because they used to thank me. I'll tell a case where we had a depressed, where we have a tata, like he was working in this Tirupati temple. So he got a stroke and he wasn't able to move his hands. He went into depression. He went into depression and he was admitted in the hospital for some other condition, and my doctor, my senior, told me just go and visit him because he doesn't talk or he doesn't do anything. He was a priest, like he was a Brahmin, and he studied in Tirupati temple like when he was small. So for the 50 years of his life he was in Tirupati temple doing the prayer things. I just went to him, I just talked to him. We talked about his marriage. We talked about having fun time in the family with all the family members. We talked about the love relationship with his wife, with God, with everyone. The third day when I went, when I went into the room, he just stood like this and he was talking to me. He was asking me, like, did you had anything food? He was the one who wasn't talking to anyone. And his wife came and told me that his wife asked me, like, what you people were telling. He was telling me, he was telling to his wife that he felt that his sister, who died some 10 years back, came to him and talked to him. It was that his wife told me, and we were all surprised by seeing how he talks to every one of us in the hospital, to all the nurses. Whenever nurses come, he used to say some verses. He used to explain it. Even when I go, he used to tell me a lot of things in the Sanskrit. A lot of he was in a joint family, so I was also very curious. Like curiosity should be there in a psychologist to know about the person. So I was also curious to know about that generation, like how life was that. So that is what I didn't do anything. I just talked to him. I just listened to him. We shared a lot of things. I told about my college days to him. And it really helped him to come out of the depression. He was in depression, feeling that he can't even move his hands, which he was using for like doing this RP for like 50 years. He can't do that. So there I felt, at times I felt in my career with very limited cases that I have gone through. This is what my answer is. I hope your answer to an extent I know. No, to an extent that I know.
Hello, madam.
Yeah.
Actually, first of all, your presentation was very good, madam. My question is, so can we write those thought process in note, madam?
Yeah, sir. Actually, you can write anything that comes to your mind in your notebook. Then you can process it. You can understand what thought process you are taking place. Are you thinking the extremes? Sometimes when people fail in the exams, they think that my life is a failure. That is an extreme thinking. They think that my life is a failure. They don't understand that failure is the best lesson. Even we know it a lot of times, but we think the extreme. But a best friend of you fails, you will tell them that failure is the best lesson. You will come out from this. You will reach heights. But when it comes to us, we think the negative. We think the extreme. When we write in that, we will understand. When we keep writing our thoughts, we will understand that there are a lot of places we avoid the negative. As Matt said, it is overgeneralization. We overgeneralize the negative things. We just avoid the positive things. There are like 12 cognitive distortions, I guess. 12 cognitive distortions are there. You can look into the net, and then you can, when you read the distortions, you can understand which all distortions you are using. At times, what are the distortions that you're using? Like some people, I had a client, whenever she get a headache, she will think that it is brain cancer. She will think the extreme of anything. Whenever she get a pain in her hands, it is bone cancer. So that is faulty way of thinking. So when you write it, it is very easy to understand what are the faulty ways, and we can reconstruct on that. Yeah.
Madam,
Thank
what are the questions we need to write about that thought, madam?
No, you just write what are the things that are coming into your mind. Just take a paper and just randomly write.
Is it enough, madam, or shall we do questioning on that particular thought?
Actually, what I used to do is I just used to think about my thoughts when I sit simply, and I just used to think like, what are my thoughts? And when a situation comes, when anxiety pops in, because these all thoughts leads to anxiety, depression, stress. Mostly these three things. So when you're feeling these three things in your mind, when you're anxious, when you're stressed, when you're so fearful, just write it out. That will be the cognitive distortions. I think so.
Shall I?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. I have a few things to say. Number
Yes, sir.
one, I was very happy about you saying that whenever the client told you something, you immediately connected with something in psychology. That was something really good. Every single sentence that she was telling you, and you were connecting them with psychological terms and relating that, and that's a real good one. And you were talking about the physical abuse area. In Western countries, especially in USA, maybe a 5-6 years old boy falls down from the cycle and has got bruises. And mummy takes him to the hospital. Immediately, the doctor will say, you strip and I would like to check up your entire body for the mummy. And she says, it's only my son who fell down. And the doctor wants to ensure that it was not the daddy who abused the child. It was not the daddy abusing the wife also. And the Indian lady never thought such a question will be asked. Boy fell down from the cycle. No. We want to ensure your husband did not abuse the child. Your husband is not abusing you also. That's the kind of importance that they give to physical abuses in US. And another one is we're talking about mummy, and this was the way mummy was, and I would like to be diametrically opposite to mummy. Still, she is stuck with mummy. Either you copy mummy or you go diametrically opposite to mummy. Mummy still runs your life. Either this way or that way. You are still stuck. You don't have third option. That's something to be noted. And one other area, something about journaling. Somebody was asking, the best way to start journaling is go back to memories when you were less than 10 years old. Highly non-controversial area, absolutely no problem saying anything. So keep writing about all your friends' school experiences and playground and all those things. As it keeps flowing, less than 10, less than 5, ultimately today you can come and then the ego will come into play. Is it okay to write it here or not okay? Will someone see it? And what will happen to me if someone sees it? Start with less than 10 years old, whatever comes here. Less than 10 years old, maybe 4th standard, maybe 5th standard. Talk about your 4th standard and 5th standard and your pen will keep flowing. So that's the best way to start journaling. And one more thing is a lady before getting married picks up the best books on how to bring up children, child rearing practices or child development. And one of her friends asked her, why are you reading it now? You are not married. She says, I'm going to get married. I would like to know how to bring up children and the best books. And she memorizes the whole thing. And it so happens after 5 years, this lady meets this lady and she looks at her and asks her, you were reading a umpty number of books, the best books on child development. Now tell me, did it work? And this lady says, now I have 2 children and I know no book works.
Yeah,
So
yes.
that's all I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Okay, may I have some suggestions about the session? Like not questions, suggestions so that I could work on my skills.
Dear Sri, I would like to intervene. I am Mallikala. I am also a transaction analyst and I admired your openness. That was very nice because you were telling that I am a very novice person and you were open to receive from the group also. But the time is the very constraining factor here. So I admire. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sharing your case histories is real good.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Mary
Hello,
ma'am.
ma'am. On forgiveness, it was very beautiful. Forgiveness.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
when you forgive someone, we get inner peace and more than the other person. So I have experienced that I want to tell you. Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Wonderful session.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, is there anyone who wanted to critically judge me? I am very open to critical judgments because I believe that could help me in my life. So anyone who wanted to give any suggestions?
Shrikutti,
Yes.
you are supposed to say something, some suggestions, or something you are supposed to say just now.
Like what?
Actually,
You are
your
supposed to
voice.
make some suggestions.
Actually, I don't know your name. Like it's 2021. Like your voice is breaking.
My name is Amrut Muzumdar.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Just now you
Okay.
said you have some suggestions.
Yeah,
Sequence.
I want some suggestions. Okay, Amrit, I think I don't know what happened. Okay, anyone else who wants to give any suggestions or like anything related to the session where I could improve?
Just your
Sri Kriti, I'm Shyamla here. No critical suggestion. Actually, your session was wonderful. I like the way that you took it up on your case study and you built it up this whole session. So it was like naturally free flowing and you had all the experiences. So you were sharing with us and the way you were tackling your clients. And I particularly like that I don't give any advice to anyone, you know. That was very nice. So beautiful session, actually. I just enjoyed the pace, the way you speak, restrained way of talking. Very nice it was. Thank you so much.
Okay, someone else was coming to say because I'll tell you, because I always, whenever we have a session, I will always come to talk. Then I'll be like, oh, should I talk or not? I'll have something in my mind because we still have this anxious person in us. We know how much we conquer our anxiety. So I'll think that I'm like whether I need to talk. So is there anyone like me who have a doubt whether we need to come and talk or not? If there is anyone, please come and talk so that we will break your fear here. Anyone who wants to break the fear and come and talk? I hope all are ready. Okay, there are comments like, okay,
On a lighter note, just on a
yeah,
lighter note, may I suggest that you get your son and let us all introduce your son to all of us, so that he's also happy seeing us, and he gets he gets to know that okay, mom is talking to so many people.
okay. Like he just calls me psychologist, and when I tell something, he will be like, okay, now it's psychology time, and you will be telling me psychology. So it's like, actually, yeah, life is full of learning. I believe in that. Each day I make sure that I learn something, so that it's not for upskilling my skills, but it is like, what do you all think about happiness? I feel that whatever we do are to make us happy. Whatever, even I present here, you give me suggestions, or I feel so happy in like sharing my knowledge. So everything is connected to happiness, and the surprising and the reality is we always give the happiness, our key to happiness, to someone else. Our happiness is depending on many other people rather than thinking that we can build a lot of happiness in our life. Even the time that I have with my son, I think that I tell my son also, like, I don't know what happens after your 18 years or 20 years. Maybe you won't sit with me like this, but I really want to have memories so that I can cherish it in my mind. Like after your 20 years, and I have a very strong thing that I should never decide my son's life after he is 22, somewhere where his frontal lobe is completely somewhat developed. So I believe that meantime I should teach him how to respect women. My main things that in my mind is like how to respect women, how to set boundaries, how to ask consent with other person whenever we are going into their boundaries. Then how to be happy and how to be resilient. I don't want to teach him not to fail. I want to teach him how to come up when he fails in his life. How to be empathetic towards these people. So even though I put him in a school, but I have put him in a very normal school because I want him to enjoy his life. Like what are the things that we need to survive in this world? I really want him to learn it because I learned it only in the last like late 30s. I really want him to know in his early years of life, so he could able to find his happiness within himself, not with others, which I did. I was a people pleaser, so I don't want my son to be people pleaser. I want my son to be very strong and a very empathetic person. Yeah.
Very subtle things that you talked about. Very important as far as life skills are concerned. Very important as life skills are concerned.
Thank you, Ramesh sir. Any other questions, participants?
Actually, I
Somebody
made my
asked, yeah, Sri Kuti, somebody asked slides. I think they
yeah,
will
I'll share
pay.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share you the slides because I didn't made a slide for that. It would be very easy. I'll make a slide and you because I really love this free flowing conversation which I learned from Muttaiya sir. It is really great when we have this free flowing conversation rather than looking into the slide. It comes from our mind. So when we are talking like this, there are a lot of things that come from our heart, come from our experience. A lot of free flowing conversation take place rather than sticking on to a PPT. So I'll share the information, like all the points that I have discussed here. Yeah, definitely I'll share it.
Okay, Srikuti, thank you. It was a beautiful session, like you are. Kindly accept our gratitude on behalf of American College Madurai and MS Challamuthu Institute Madurai, Madras School of Chennai, then Red Pond Educational Research Center, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, Tamil Nadu Career Counselor Association, Tamil Nadu Career Counselor and Psychotherapy Association. We thank from all participants. Yet another wonderful session tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
May
Thank you.
one
Yes,
more
sir.
announcement, Sunanda.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yesterday, I was talking about psychoanalysis here in our platform in English. Today, I am talking on the same topic, psychoanalysis, in Tamil, in some other forum. And any Tamilians here or anyone who has missed out yesterday may participate in that area. If they ask for number, you may give them. 7 to 8, I am talking on psychoanalysis today in one another forum called Red Fort in Tamil.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Close.
Okay, thank you. Let's end the meeting.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good job, Srikuti. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.